Okay. Okay, we're getting back to the Gemara yesterday on Daf Gimel. Daf Gimel Lamed Aleph, where according to Rava, the reason why the Shliach says nechtam is to substantiate the document, because because you're not able to locate the witness who signed on the get, because it's Medina Sayyam. So what should be if it should be contested that it's a forgery? So how are you going to confirm that it's not a forgery? So the Shliach says nechtam. So Mar asks the question, but it's an Eid Echad. So Mar says, Bishum Aguna Kilu B'Rabbanan. So Mar asks the question again, it's a kula, it's a chumrah, because if the husband comes and he contests it, he'll invalidate the get. So now the Gemara says the same thing, that because it's given in the presence of one or two or three, he's medaktek, the shliach is very exacting to make sure everything is correct, because he understands it could be contested. Therefore, there's an anansadi. Therefore, the husband is not believed even to Motzilas. We didn't get that far. But yesterday, the Gemara asked the question, said that on a Torah level, Rish Lakish says that a document does not have to be substantiated. Why? Because witnesses in the document, it's the equivalent of witnesses testifying in court. So therefore, so Rashi says, how do we know a document is what is authentic and not forged? Because we say we have an anansadi, would say with certainty that a person doesn't have the brazenness, the insolence to forge a document. You know, the Gemara says in of Mitzvah, motive mixus, you have to swear. Partial admission, you have to swear. So the Gemara says, the man has amigo. Has amigo. Believe, if you're a kofar hakol, if a person totally denies he owes anything, he doesn't swear. So what is the value of swearing? To verify that you're telling the truth. Right? That's the basis to swear. Shua is mevaret. It verifies that I'm telling the truth. Have amigo. Believe me that I only owe partial and not what you're claiming, because if I wanted to be dishonest, I could have said I owe you nothing. And if I would have said I owe you nothing, I don't have to swear. So what does he have to swear? That's the Gemara's question. So Gemara says, Luchot sevinish. A person doesn't have the arrogance to deny when he does owe. So because Luchot sevinish, therefore the amigo is not amigo. That's the Gemara. Therefore you have to swear. Okay? So over here we have an anat tzadik. We could say with certainty a person doesn't have the arrogance to forge a document and present a document that's a forgery. I mean, you find, but it's something very rare. So therefore, on a Torah level, you go after what? A presumption. The presumption is it's not forged. So if it's not forged, it's a valid document. Therefore, that you have to substantiate document is purely rabbinical. On a Torah level, it does not have to be substantiated. Because lochot's a finish, that the signatures were not forged. Oh, you mean with their psulim? We assume that they're kosher. Most people are not psulim. So if most people are not psulim, so the witnesses also are valid witnesses. Therefore, the doctrine is that. Okay. Well, that's why substantiate the document. You only everybody agrees. Kiyum shtoris throughout Shas. That to substantiate a document to collect a money document is because there's a possibility maybe a forgery. That's what the borrower says. Okay. There's a Tosus in Ksubis on your test. We never studied Ksubis here. Ksubis we never studied, only Daf Yomi. The Gemara says over there, if let's say a person comes with a document that hasn't been substantiated, and he says, you owe me so much money, and the borrower says, I paid. He says, I paid. Does it have to be substantiated? It's Machlokes Tanoim. You hear the question? The lender comes with a document which hasn't been certified to be an authentic document. He comes to the borrower and says, you owe me $1,000. And the borrower says, I paid the document. I paid. Does he have to pay? Or is the document automatically assume a viable status? Or do we say no, until it's substantiated, he cannot collect with it? What's the argument? So the argument is, the Gemara says, if the borrower himself gives credence to the document, gives validity to the document, so what do I have to substantiate it? Right? There's no reason to substantiate it. He's saying it's an authentic document. So if it's an authentic document, he has the document in his hand. So if that's the case, what do I do with the document if it's authentic? So evidently it's clear you didn't pay. That's one opinion. Therefore, in that situation, it does not have to be substantiated. If he says it's a forgery, he's not admitting he borrowed, then everybody agrees. Nobody argues. It has to be substantiated. But if he says, I borrowed, so if you borrowed, that means you're saying you originally gave him the document. In that case, it does not have to be substantiated. That's one opinion. It does not have to be substantiated. Other opinion says, no. Chazal said that every document has to be, until it's substantiated, it's not a viable document. It's like a milval peh. It's a milval peh. It's like an undocumented loan. So therefore, when does it have the force of a document? It has to be substantiated. That's the argument. So Tosas asks a question. Tosas asks a question. Tosas, the question has a priority to your question. Okay? For many reasons. Okay? So Tosas asks a question. Why, according to the opinion, that because you admit that you borrowed, it doesn't have to be substantiated. Factually, there are times that a person pays, he doesn't take the document back. There are times. We should believe him. Why? He has a migo. He has a migo. Believe me that I paid, because if I wanted to invalidate the document, or that it should not be seen as a document in force, I could have said Mizuyev. I could have said it's a forgery. So what is the basis of the position of, if you admit you have to pay, he has a migo. Believe me, I'm an honest man, that I'm saying I paid. If I wanted to be dishonest, I could have said Mizuyev.
How is that amigo? Because then they can prove that the signature is...
No. Then you have to go substantiate it.
Okay, so
We're going according to the opinion that if you admit you borrowed, it doesn't have to be certified.
that's not fair. What?
That if you admit you borrowed, it doesn't have to be certified, the document.
Okay.
Okay? Why? Because you're admitting automatically means that it's an authentic document.
Right.
Okay? So Tosas asks. But there are times that a person does not take a document back. Right? There are times.
Right.
So maybe he has a migo to prove he's the exception. He's not the norm. He has a migo. Believe me, I'm honest. Because I wanted to not pay now, I could have said it's a forgery. Wait. And if it's a forgery, you're going to have to go substantiate it. Okay? So Tosas says exactly what you're saying. Because if I say it's a forgery, the lender is going to go certify the document. So what does it make you look like? It makes you look bad, right? See, over there, when the Gemara asked the Gemara question, amigo, believe me, I could have said I owe you nothing.
Right.
So the Gemara says, lochotzavinish. Person doesn't have the brazenness to deny it fully. But over here, ultimately, the man's coming back.
Right.
He's going to find the witness, certify it, and then how does it make this borrower look? Makes him look bad. So a person's not going to say something where he's not going to say it because ultimately he's going to look bad. That's why the migo is not a migo. Okay? But Tosas says in Ksubis that this whole claim, person's a Mizuyev, is purely rabbinical. That it has to be substantiated is purely, it's a rabbinical invalidation. On a Torah level, a person cannot say, even if he says Mizuyev, it does not have to be certified on a Torah level. Because we have an Anat Sadi, that what? A person does not have the arrogance that he's going to forge documents. Okay? That's the norm. There's an expert. Don't mix up the Yitzhaks. Okay. That's because of laws. Because it's such a delicate thing. We don't want any murmurings that maybe she's not a divorced woman. That's the reason. It's a question we're dealing with Ish. Is she? If it's viable, it is. Okay. We once mentioned. It's a Rambam. Here I could say it's a famous Rambam because we've mentioned many times over the years. The Rambam rules that shtoras d'Rabbanan. Here, A document is rabbinical. The concept of document. Why? Because the Torah says, Al Pishnai made him Yokum Dover. The Torah says that testimony is oral testimony. So if it's oral and it cannot be written testimony, so therefore, shtoris a drabonon. Because if you document, the witnesses, they sign on the document. Wait. That's the Rambam. So the Ravid goes and says, what's going on? You could marry a woman with Kesser Shtar Rabiyah. You mean to say if you marry a woman with a document, which is, it's not a Doraisa, and what about get? The Ravid is, get. A woman, now she's married, you're able to terminate the marriage with a get. And the witness is on the get, right? We hold even witnesses, even if no 80 Masira. Witnesses don't wait. We'll discuss this later, right? Witness sign on the document, that causes it to be a viable get that she's divorced. But if Shtoris is Drabonon, how she divorced, these are the questions the Ravid asks on the Rambam. Famous Ravid on the Rambam. So Reb Chaim says phenomenal. Reb Chaim Brisker. Reb Chaim says that there's no question. There's a Gzeres Kosov, which is known Shtar. Shtoros, for instance. A woman can be divorced with a document. A woman can be married with a document. The Gemara says that if you buy a fixed piece of property, it's what? It's Kesef Shtar V'Chazoka. You have a deed. The original owner gives the deed to the buyer. Transfer of deed. That's a transfer of the property. You give value, it's transferred. Chazoka, you take physical possession. That's a means of acquisition, of transfer. Okay? Over there, what is the function of the document? The document over there affects the transfer. That's called shtar kinyan. It's a document of acquisition. It's a document of marriage, a document of what? Of divorce. What about if I lend you money and I give you a document? What is the function of that document? It's called shtar raya. It's proof. On the Torah level, there's no such thing. The Torah says a document that has witnesses on it, when they sign, it's the equivalent of them testifying in court. That's only a document where the document affects whatever you're trying to affect. Marriage, divorce, acquisition of property. So there, that's called shtar kinyan. In the shtar kinyan, there's a gzeres of shtar that the witness in the document, witnesses in the document, it's the equivalent of testifying in court and it's interrogated in court. What about if I borrow money, I give you a document to prove that I owe you money? The document over there doesn't create the debt. What creates the debt is what? Is the money, is the loan. That's what creates the debt. So how do I classify that document? That document is called shtar raya. It's purely a document to prove that you lent me money. Or let's say I acquire a piece of property with money, and now the buyer wants proof that it was a transfer of money. That document is not a Torah document. That's a rabbinic document. Because that document purely was written as proof that money was given, that you acquired it. But what about the document originally, which was the deed, which caused the transfer? And now you want to use that deed as proof that you're the owner. That document is a viable document at Torah level. Because that document was the means of transfer, which the Torah says, if it's a means of transfer, the witnesses on the document are equivalent of testifying in court. Okay, so the Ravid, or Reb Chaim explains, misunderstood the Rambam. The Rambam is speaking about shtar raya, where the document purely was written as proof that something happened. But if it's actually functioned as the means of marriage, divorce, or transfer, then that document is viable. That's equivalent of witnesses testifying in court. It just says shtoris drabonon. So the average shtar, when we speak shtoris, is shtarim milveh. So shtarim milveh, we're all shtar raya. Every loan document is a raya. It's a shtar raya. It's just proof that you lent the money. The real estate where the deed is the means of transfer. But let's say the acquisition came, you gave value, or any degree of value. Kesef shtar v'chazoka. You acquired it through kesef. But the one who acquired through kesef, he says to the seller, I'd like proof that I gave you money, otherwise how do I prove that I acquired it? So he gives him the deed now. So the deed is, this deed that he gives him is not the transfer. That was the cause of transfer. The cause of transfer, it's only proof of transfer. Because the Torah says you could acquire property with a deed. If the seller gives you a document that you either gifts it to you or you purchased it through the deed, then the deed is the means of transfer. When the deed is the means of transfer, the deed itself, that shtar is a shtar on Torah level. The witnesses in that document are the equivalent of witnesses testifying in court. So it's not classified as written testimony. That's the equivalent of oral testimony in court. Exactly. The rest is a debt. That's it. You want to gift it, the rest is a debt. So we say, because that's the language of the Gemara. So by get, it is, factually it is that. Witnesses who sign on a get, it's the equivalent, they've testified. That we're going to have later. According to Rebbe, you need no witnesses. Right? The witnesses in the document is sufficient. According to Rebbe Lozer, it has to be given in presence of witnesses. That's Edim Sira Karsi. Okay, let's get to Rebbe Lozer, Rebbe Meir, and we'll discuss the Rambam. Okay? Okay. Okay. Rome wasn't built in 3 minutes. Okay. I know that. He wants to do it in 3 minutes. Okay. Okay. So yesterday what we were discussing now substantiating a document to be able to collect, okay? If a person has a document, now according to what we're saying now, witnesses in a document are what? It's as if they're testifying in court. Right? A shtar d'oraisa, the witnesses in the document, as if they're testifying in court. It's not written testimony. To what degree do I take that? So yesterday we were discussing this. So if a lender has a document which have witnesses on it, and the borrower says, I paid, and the Gemara says, shtar b'yotcha my boy. So the lender says, if you paid, what am I doing with the document? So is the discussion because a person normally takes back a document? That's the reason why there is almost uncontestable proof that it was not paid, because otherwise what's the lender holding in possession of the document? Which is seemingly the understanding. So therefore we had a discussion yesterday with an IOU. When a person gives an IOU, does he normally take back the IOU? If a person takes back the IOUs, he takes back a document that's witnessed. So the lender has the same claim. If you paid, what am I doing with the IOU? You should have taken it back. What do we say? We differentiate between an IOU and a document that's witnessed. Because a document which is witnessed is a cold, word gets out in the marketplace. So therefore a person over there always takes the document back. IOU, a person doesn't necessarily take it back. We said it's a machlokes rishonim. But according to Reb Chaim says, there's another Reb Chaim, that witnesses in the document, if you have a document and witnesses say Ruven owes Shimon money, it's witnesses are testifying that Ruven owes Shimon money. It's not because I'm in possession of the document, you should have taken it back. The witnesses, it's like you have living witnesses coming to court saying, Ruven owes Shimon, whatever number is written in that document. If that's the case, that you can only say if it's a document which is witnessed. If it's an IOU, there's no such thing. There it's purely because you have the document. The times the person pays, he doesn't take back the document. So, shtar b'yotcha my boy is why, what am I doing with the document? Having the document clearly confirms if the witnesses are testifying this moment, Ruven owes Shimon money. So if you have a witness saying that the debt is still in force, you can say I paid from today forever. It's meaningless because the witness is saying the debt is still in force, so you have to pay. Okay.
Why would someone not take back the IOU? If I come and present the money to you, you say to me, I'm sorry, I don't have the document. I said, don't worry, bring it to me tomorrow. I say, you don't worry, I'll give you the money when you bring me the document.
It's a discussion in the Gemara.
I mean, why would somebody...
Let's say two people who trust one another. Say it's okay. And then afterwards, the person doesn't recall that he paid him. Right? So people don't think. You know, the Gemara says in Shavuos, this is important. Harvey, very important. Especially if you lend money to people. The Gemara says that you should never lend money unless you write a document. Why? Because people forget, And if they forget, and sometimes, and you come and you demand it, they could actually curse you. You know, that's for doing a favor. What? That's something else. Yeah. The Gemara says he could curse you. The person, the borrower, will curse the lender. What do you need it for? He gives you the document, you have proof. You show him exactly he borrowed. And that's the beginning and end of the case. So therefore, what? No, even an IOU, you have to have some degree of proof. What? No, he says he never borrowed. Never borrowed, not he paid. He said he never borrowed. Person doesn't remember, he borrowed. The Gemara, the Mishnah Shavuos, the Mishnah says you have a number of cases. It's called Tipuch Shvu. We said the cases where you invert the Shvu on the claimant rather than the one who owes the money. Person, let's say, is a Gazlan. He's not qualified to swear, so he can be taken advantage of. So we say the one makes the claim, he has to swear. That it's then you don't collect. Then you don't collect. So the Gemara says, what about a person's a balabayas? A person is an employer, and he pays wages, right? So normally, let's say, payday is Friday. And now the employee comes, he claims he never collected wages. The balabos, the employer says, I paid all my employees. He says, I didn't get paid. What do you do? So normally, say, rabbinically, when a person's a kofar hakol, normally when there's a cheskes chiyuv, what about a person says, borrows money, and afterwards he claims he paid, let's say, within 30 days. He says, I paid. The person doesn't pay a debt before 30 days. And he says, I repaid the debt. What's the halacha? He's not believed. Even if it's possible, because we say a person doesn't pay before the due date, so therefore there is a presumed status you still owe the money. So until you prove you don't owe, you have to pay. That's called the cheskes chiyuv. There's a presumed status you owe. So until it's not even question you owe, there's a possibility. But if you have a presumed status, you have to pay. So what about if you have an employer? He definitely owed the wages. The employee says he didn't collect. He says, according to my best recollection, I paid you. So the halacha is, we say, balabais torah bepo'alav. A balabais payday, he's so preoccupied and distracted with his workers, he believes he paid, he really doesn't remember. So therefore, you can't impose the oath on him, because if he's going to swear. Because according to his recollection, he paid. So what's the value of even the shvur? It has no value. And it's not even called a false oath, because if you believe you're telling the truth, it's not considered a false oath. But it has no value. So what do? You say to the employee, if you claim you're owed, you swear. And you swear, you'll collect. Okay? That's one of the cases of nishba v'notel. Normally, every oath is always, you swear and you're absolved from paying. Here, this is one of the cases, it's called nishba v'notel. You swear and you collect as a result of swearing. For this reason.
You told us the story of that.
That's the one he referred to. The Rishash.
Rishash. We found
The Shterson Library, the famous library.
He found it in his Gemara. Okay. You would think that the Chazal would have set this up and said, to protect everybody concerned, both the borrower and the lender, we're going to always insist on the document.
You can insist, but people...
Otherwise you've got no claim. If there isn't a document, whether you're the borrower or the lender, there's no claim. You're not going to make people swear, because people will swear. If you had made that rabbi swear, he would have sworn. He would have sworn, I did not receive the money.
No. He had no obligation to swear there. Over there, the borrower would have had to swear.
Yeah, so he would have sworn that he did repay.
But the Rishash didn't want him to swear. Because he felt the man was lying. He didn't want to be the cause of a false oath.
But let's switch this. The Rishash was so certain that he hadn't been repaid that if he would have been required to swear, he would have sworn.
Okay. Jews don't swear. That's okay.
Because if my memory is such that I am absolutely convinced, I'll swear. But I may be wrong.
The whole concept of no pay would not apply. There's no such thing as no pay.
I mean, factually, why did they ever institute these rabbinic oaths? There are rabbinic oaths. It's called kofar hakol. You have to swear rabbinically. What do you have to swear rabbinically? They should say, you know, something. We only have documented loans. So the whole thing would have never come about. Many of these situations. So evidently, if the Torah says there is such a thing as swearing to verify your integrity, we have no right to remove that. Even though it has swearing falsely has very serious consequences and ramifications. People weren't literate. They couldn't. No, not only that. People always had to go to a sofer. You always went to a scribe. Firstly, there's a legal text. If you don't write the legal, you have to have the date. You have to have certain things there. Otherwise, it's not necessarily it's credible. The document may not be a credible document. No. Rashash very rarely lost it in Torah. The Rashash was a banker.
Yeah, I know that. No, but
He knows he was a banker. Okay. Okay. The Rashash was a very wealthy man. He was a banker, but the Rashash also was one of the leading Torah sages of the generation. He had a library. There's a famous library today. It's called the Shtarshan Library. That was his. His name was Shlomo Shtarshan. It was his library, and in those days, only very wealthy people had large libraries. And he was a lender, and he lent a person a certain amount of money, and he entered into his ledger that so-and-so borrowed money. And he was learning one night. He had a knock on his door, let's say 11:30, 12 at night. The borrower came with an envelope of money, gave him the money. He was middle learning. He was Mesech Yevamos. And he's learning, and as he gives him the envelope, he just opens the Gemara, puts it in the back of the Gemara, and continues learning. He goes through his ledger every few months, and he sees this debt is past due. Summons the person. He says, you didn't pay the money. He says, don't you remember? I came to you. No recollection whatsoever. And this person was he was a shady character, the borrower. He was known, he was a conniving, semi-dishonest type person. So Rashash says, you have to pay. It's recorded in my ledger. Didn't remove it from the ledger. You weren't crossed out. So word somehow got out in the community that this man has no scruples. He's even trying to victimize the Rashash. He became persona non grata in the community. Whatever business he had, they boycotted it. He had to leave the community in disgrace. With his family, nobody would marry his children. He was persona non grata. Rashash was learning Yevamos again. I don't know how often he studied it, every few months. Sure enough, all of a sudden he comes, he finds the envelope in the Gemara. He sees it's like a nightmare to him. He destroyed this man's life, accused him of something. There was no basis for it. So he immediately sought him out, finds him, and he said to him, I'll compensate you financially, put you back into business, everything. I want to clear your name. And I'm asking forgiveness. So the man says, do you think they're going to believe you? They're going to say that you had rachmanos on me, people, because my life was destroyed, and you're a great tzaddik. That's the reason why you did. But in terms of who I am, they'll still say I'm a person who actually connived and victimized the Rashash. He says, I'll make it uncontestable that you're an honest man, unquestioned. I have a son, you have a daughter. We'll make a shidduch between us. My son will marry your daughter, and that was the confirmation that the Rashash was the one at fault, and it was not the person himself. Okay, that's the story of the Rashash. I said then, when I heard the story, it's an explicit chazal. It's a Yalkut. The Yalkut says in Parshas Emor, Shor Chesed Eski Volid. Shor is the first one, the ox. What Hashem chose the ox. The ox is the Chet Egel. See, so it says Moshel Ma'adav. What is it analogous to? That one of the ministers, the king went on a vacation, and word went out that one of the ministers committed adultery with the queen. Okay? The king comes back, he's livid, and he immediately launches an investigation and finds out the whole thing was baseless. It was false. So, but what happens? So, of course, he's going to do nothing. But how does he clear the name of the minister? He was slandered so seriously. He makes a banquet for all the ministers of the country and all the, whatever it is, the officials, and he has the minister sitting right next to him at the banquet. So if the king has the minister sitting, being equivalent to guest of honor, it's clear it was it was purely baseless, it was slander. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, the Umas Olam nation world said, the Jews, you did the Chet Egel. Right? Hashem says, the first priority at Korban is the shore. The shore. Because it says, Elo Elohecha Yisrael. If actually, if we initiated it, it's Elo Eloheinu Yisrael. What is Elohecha? It's clear, it was the Erev Rab, it was the rabble, it wasn't us. Therefore, it's Shor Chesav Eski Volid. So the story of the Rishash is literally the Chazal of Shor coming, being the priority on the Korban. Okay?
Too cheap of a way out, Rabbi, sitting next to the king. Marry the daughter to the son. Zelvazah.
Well, that was that.
That's the real test. You know.
No question.
Not
It's not a question. It's not a question. They were talking about royalty versus a commoner.
Exactly.
No, see, a commoner doesn't marry royalty. He can't. It's not possible. You want to abdicate the throne? You want to abdicate the throne? South Africa was never part of the English Commonwealth. Okay. Okay.
Prince William married a commoner.
Okay. But at one time, you abdicate the throne. Okay. Okay, so the Gemara comes out and says, according to Rava, factually, should have to have the witnesses. If the reason why the Shliach says is to establish the document as being authentic, because the woman would remain what? An aguna, a bound woman. So Gemara says, Haikula chumru. Is this a leniency? This is a stringency. Why? Trade. Let's say initially they said you have to have two agents delivering the document, and they substantiate the document when it comes from overseas. The husband cannot come and contest the get and invalidate the get. We'll discuss this in a moment. But if it's one, it's his word against the shliach. So why did they legislate one witness is sufficient, one shliach is sufficient? Here we could legislate you have to have two shluchim. Two witnesses should deliver the get, and they should be the equivalent. They should substantiate the document. So why did they say one is sufficient? You want to say the leniency is mishum aguna. We have a solution. Instead of one coming from overseas, you have two coming from overseas. And whatever the cost factor is, that'll be the cost factor. It's because it's not a leniency, it's a stringency. On that, the Gemara says, "Kevin the Omar b'fnei kama knows the law." In the presence of how many people does the shlich have to give the get? Reb Yochanan, Reb Chanin, Charom b'fnei Shnayim, Charom b'fnei Gimel. Once is in presence of two, once is presence of three. Mikora made it dayik. So the shlich, when he originally takes it, he's very careful to make sure that the document is an authentic document. Lo si lo rui navshe, because it will reflect badly on the shliach. So we could say it on Tzadi, the shlich is telling the truth, and the husband, when he comes, he's only coming to create a problem. Therefore, we totally dismiss the husband. We don't pay attention. So Tosas asked an interesting question. The halacha is, if a Eid Echad comes and says Meis Balo, the woman's husband's funeral, do we rely on his testimony? So the Mishnah says in Yevomis, we believe him. Why do we believe him? Because if we don't believe him, the woman will remain a guna, chained, bound woman for the rest of her life. So the Mishnah says, why do we believe a single witness? Because because of the leniency of allowing him to get married, there's going to be a very serious chumrah. We're going to be strict to the nth degree. Because factually, if the husband should come back, and she should be found out that the testimony of the witness wasn't truthful, then she's not only not permitted to the man she's with, because she's married, she's not even permitted to go back to her husband, even though she's not an adulteress. On a total level, it's inadvertent. If two witnesses would say her husband died, and then the husband comes back, she's permitted to go back to her husband, because she's not an adulteress. It was b'shogeg, because we rely on the testimony of two witnesses. But if one witness, we don't rely on his testimony that if the husband should come back, we penalize her, and we say she's not even permitted to the husband. Why? Because we tell her in advance that you better verify and not leave a stone unturned that what the single witness is saying is truthful. Isha daiko mitzvah. Because we could say a woman will not remarry because of the stringency unless she's thoroughly researched it to confirm that what the witness is saying is correct. So if the husband should return, evidently, we see that her verification, her process was faulty. Therefore, we penalize her. So it says, mitoch chumra she'achmarta aleh besovo u'mekel b'tchilosa. Therefore, we're lenient. So the Gemara asks, why be machmir? Don't be mekel. That's the Gemara's question. Why be so strict with her? Don't rely on the testimony of a single witness. We'll only allow her to be married if you have two witnesses saying that they witnessed the husband that he had died. That's the Gemara's question. The Gemara says because you may not have two witnesses. So b'shumagula kuli b'rabbanan. So the Gemara, he's asking, Tosha said, why don't we say the same thing here? Same thing. What do you mean? B'shumaguna, have two witnesses. The Gemara over there doesn't say have two. So why does the Gemara here say have two? So Tosha is very simple. Let's say two people witnessed wherever it was the man died. How do you get two? Even if they may multiple people know or aware of it, but factually you only have one person available. So therefore, unless you rely on his testimony, the woman is stuck for life. Here, the husband's sending an agent. So send two agents. Why you be makel? We have a way to deal with it. Send two agents. So therefore, if the husband even he tries to contest it, you have two viable witnesses confirming that the get is an authentic get. That's the Gemara's question. Why rely on one and then you have one's testimony against the other testimony? It's not a leniency, it's a chumrah. And that the Gemara says, because the agent, when he brings it, he gives the presence of two or three, he's careful initially to make sure his information is accurate. Therefore, we say with certainty he's not lying and the husband's only coming to make trouble.